Hare Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Nitai Go Premanande Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai SrilaPrabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavat Gita Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Agyantimiranda Saginanjana Salokaya Chakshuram Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Stapitam Bhutnyana Bhutale Swayam Rupakadam Ayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubevacha patitanam bhavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vata Mahatpirema Puravibur Nirmaikshati Adamusha Purusha Bhumte Ganan Sadasa Sadasa Makalang Krishishta Bhagavan Vacham Sime. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So this is very special time, special months. Just a few days ago we had Kartik month finishing, which is actually dedicated to Srimati Radharani, because Kartika is one of the name of Srimati Radharani. And now we are in the month of Magha, and Krishna says, of all the months, I am this month, which is November, December. So this month is dedicated to Krishna. And then next month will be the special month when Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And actually when Kurukshetra happened as well. And normally this month is dedicated to the continuation of the fighting for establishment of Dharma. And of course, we are not fighting with swords and shields or machine guns or anything like that, but we are fighting against the ignorance in the hearts of the people, and our weapon is transcendental knowledge. And this is what Krishna also tells Arjuna in the end of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita: armed with knowledge, stand and fight. And that's why traditionally devotees are conducting what is known as Srila Prabhupada's book distribution marathon, that transcendental books are our spiritual weapons. And Srila Prabhupada said in one letter that in the same way as the, airplane bombs the cities of the enemies with bombs, so in the same way we are putting out so many books, dropping all these transcendental books on the lap of the conditioned souls to destroy their ignorance. And this is a very special service and very special time when Srila Prabhupada wanted us to stand and fight for the sake of establishing Krishna consciousness. And we'll read one text from Bhagavad Gita, which is explaining Krishna's attitude towards those who are spreading his message. So this is chapter 18, which is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, the perfection of renunciation. Text 68. Those of you who are familiar with Bhagavad Gita, text 67 is the most important instruction. Krishna, 1866 is the most important instruction Krishna gives to Arjuna, which is to surrender fully unto him, full surrender. And then he tells in the following two texts what kind of people should not be told this spiritual science and what kind of people are suitable recipients of this spiritual knowledge, and what is Krishna's view towards those who are spreading this knowledge. So text 68, Sanskrit says, Ya idam paramam guhyam mad bhaktesha vidasyati bhaktim mai param kritva mam evaishyata samshayaha. Translation: for one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. So Prabhupada's purport: generally it is advised that Bhagavad Gita be discussed amongst the devotees only, for those who are not devotees will understand neither Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. Those who do not accept Krishna as he is and Bhagavad Gita as it is should not try to explain Bhagavad Gita whimsically and become offenders. Bhagavad Gita should be explained to persons who are ready to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a subject matter for the devotees only, and not for philosophical speculators. Anyone, however, who tries sincerely to present Bhagavad Gita as it is will advance in devotional activities and reach the pure devotional state of life. As a result of such pure devotion, he is sure to go back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is the text once again. Ya idam paramam guhyam mad bhaktesha vidasyati bhaktim mai param kritva maham evaishyasya samshayaha. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. So it appears that Krishna says only devotees have to be given this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada would ask us to give this spiritual knowledge to everyone and anyone. Actually, once he was asked that, you sending your disciples to distribute these books, which are, first of all, philosophical books, and second of all, this is spiritual philosophy, and these books are written in quite, in a standard academic way. So these are very, highly specialized books, and then you expect anyone and everyone just, passing by on the street to buy these books. Do you expect people to understand these books? And Srila Prabhupada said, no, I don't. They will not be able to understand. But I put so many names of Krishna, try to put so many names of Krishna, and those of you who've read Prabhupada's books, Bhagavad Gita, for example, you would never, fail to notice that so many times Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna, 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 He. And so many times he would quote full Hare Krishna mantra. There are some purports where he quotes Hare Krishna mantra more than once, full mantra, right? Any of you who was, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, began to read Srila Prabhupada's books at your time, ever wondered why Hare Krishna mantra quoted so many times? Yeah? I'll be honest with you, I was feeling a little bit upset. I was thinking, does the author thinks I'm a complete idiot and I cannot remember the mantra which consists of 3 words only, and he has to tell it to me again, and yet again. Of course, now I'm realizing that, Srila Prabhupada not only thought he knew I'm an idiot, and I need to bump into Hare Krishna mantra so many times because the holy name is purifying. Srila Prabhupada said a very interesting thing. He said, sometimes, devotees are very ecstatic. They chant and dance during kirtan. And sometimes new person comes to the temple. And they become, kind of carried away by this mood. Everyone's dancing. Okay, let me dance also and chant Hare Krishna. But after that's all over, and they think, what I was doing? I was singing and dancing like a fool with all these people. And this is the beginning of his spiritual advancement. He realized he is a fool. Because material world means ignorance, right? So it's full of foolish people. Because those who are developing Krishna consciousness and serving Krishna, they are defined as the most intelligent, right? In Shastras. Krishna Bhajasebaro Chatur, that those who worship Krishna, they are the most intelligent. So we can understand that those who are not surrendering to Krishna, they are fools. And Krishna tells about that in Bhagavad Gita directly, Namam dushkritino mudha. That only fools, they don't surrender unto me. And so, this is the beginning of our spiritual advancement, that we understand our precarious position, and that becomes a reason for surrendering unto Krishna and serving Krishna. And if any of us thinks that we understand Srila Prabhupada's books because of our intelligence, that's a complete illusion. Because even great scientists, they cannot understand Prabhupada's books. I came across one, if you do book distribution, so many amazing things are happening. And of course, I don't do book distribution that often. But the most amazing experiences were happening when I was doing full-time book distribution. One time, one man, he looked at Krishna book. I showed him Krishna book, and he said, I already have this book. And I asked him, so do you read this book? He said, yeah, I'm trying to read this book, but I don't understand anything. And I was very surprised, because of all Srila Prabhupada's books, Krishna book is just stories. So very easy to understand. And I was thinking and asking him, how do you not understand stories? Let's randomly open this book at any page and read one paragraph and see what is not clear. So we just did that. We just read one paragraph. So I said, you don't understand what's in the book? And he told me an amazing thing. He said, I understand what is written in the book, but I don't understand why these books were written. So that's, Prabhupada's books present a huge challenge to the false ego, right? Because conditioned soul means we came to this material world to try to become God. But then suddenly, by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, we understand that this position is already occupied. And so, we are realizing that we are not gods, and there is no chance in the world to become God. And so it's so upsetting to the false ego that, once intelligence becomes blocked from understanding what Srila Prabhupada writes and what Krishna speaks. And it's in the previous verse it says that this knowledge should not be given to those who are envious. And unfortunately, practically the whole world is envious of the Supreme Lord. That's why you will never find, devotees to be like in majority, because it's very rare that someone becomes a devotee. It takes a lot to come to Krishna. And I was reflecting on how I joined the movement, and some of the devotees know that from the first time I came across Bhagavad Gita, and I always wanted to know more about God and have specific answers to the questions. And because I always believed in God, and I knew that He's really taking care of me, and I was thinking, how do I know Him more, and how do I understand what can I do for Him? Like that. And before I came across Bhagavad Gita, I could never find any answers to those questions. But then, after I saw Bhagavad Gita, and I couldn't get one for myself, I was thinking, no, I should have my own copy. And it took me many, many years before I could find one. 3 years I was searching before I found a copy of Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. And after that, I was so excited. After I got my own Bhagavad Gita, I was reading it not only to myself, but sharing that with other people, my friends, relatives, etc. And I had different reactions. Someone was happy with that, someone could not understand, so etc. And then I thought, this book is really deep. And actually it's meant for like high-class people. Actually it is, because it says in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshe vidu, that this transcendental science was passed down through the chain of disciplic succession, and it was meant to be understood by saintly kings. So really this knowledge is meant for the top tier of the society. And amongst my friends, I had one who was, son of a minister. He was only 17, but he really liked to show off in front of his friends, invite everyone to his house. And his house looked like a museum, so many like rare and expensive things were there, and he treated everyone in a regal way and gave very costly gifts to everybody, etc. And tried to impress everyone how, special he is, and his manners were very aristocratic, etc. And he was very learned. He read many books and he knew different philosophies, and you could discuss anything with him. Plato, Hegel, Aristotle. He knew all these philosophies, and I thought, I should discuss Bhagavad Gita with him. Very smart man. So I came and I said, I got Bhagavad Gita and I think you would be interested to discuss it. And he said, what is Bhagavad Gita? I never heard of this book. I said, wow, this is the most famous book on ancient spiritual Indian philosophy. He looked a little embarrassed that he never even heard of Bhagavad Gita, especially when I told him that, great thinkers like Edison and many others, they studied Bhagavad Gita. And at those times, Bhagavad Gita was kind of printed underground because devotees were persecuted. So I showed him the copy, and with great respect he took the book and he opened it randomly somewhere in the middle, so probably landed around chapter 9 or 10, and started reading. And apparently he happened to read that section where Krishna speaks about himself, I am this and I am that, of, the human beings, I am a king, etc., etc., and the strength of the strong, etc. And then very interesting transformation happened. First he was curious, then he looked disturbed, and then he looked very angry. And he looked at me, he said, who is this Krishna anyway? I said, well, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And then he started shouting, which was a complete shock, not only for me, but we had few other friends around. And he said, if Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and he added few swear words, then he should be more modest and not brag so openly about himself. And he literally threw Bhagavad Gita in my hands like that. And he was like shouting and swearing. I was shocked, and my friends were shocked. It seems like suddenly he went crazy, as if he became possessed by some ghost. And we left. We could never figure out what happened to him. Suddenly he lost all his manners and all his gentle behavior was just disappeared. Just because he came across Bhagavad Gita. That's why Prabhupada was saying that Krishna consciousness is like a litmus test for people, that he gave the comparison of lemon juice squeezed into the boiling milk, and we all know what happens to milk, right? It separates into whey and curd by the touch of lemon juice. So Prabhupada said, when human society comes in contact with Krishna consciousness, it separates into divine and demonic. And those of you who are a little bit older, you have seen what was happening during the last few decades, and you've probably noticed that the world becomes increasingly polarized. Anyone's noticed that the world becomes increasingly polarized? Sometimes it's confusing what's happening, because, it seems that people are advancing spiritually. Like there is more interest in yoga, in vegetarianism, even in chanting mantras, even Hare Krishna mantra, right? That in America there are festivals, Bhakti Fest, Shakti Fest, so many people, thousands of people want to chant Hare Krishna mantra, even if they are not devotees, right? So looks like people are advancing spiritually. But then there is so much degradation also happening. So we can't figure out, do people advance or do they degrade? Actually both. That some people, they advance, and other people, they degrade. When Srila Prabhupada came, the world was more or less homogeneous. Everybody was a demon, but they behaved like demigods. Right? They had good manners and terrible consciousness. But, since Krishna consciousness started spreading, people are, the whole society becomes polarized. And, true colors are coming out. But, this was real shock for me when I saw this for the first time, because, this young man, he was probably thinking he was God, with all his good karma and everything. He was thinking, I'm God, And then suddenly he comes across real God. And then he became so upset. He couldn't even control himself, right? Who is Krishna to declare himself in such a way? I'm this, I'm that. So he became really envious of Krishna, because he could not say like this about himself. So he could see someone who is infinitely greater than him. So yes, human society, with very few exceptions, is very envious of the Supreme Lord. And if you tell these people about Krishna, they will only become more upset. And that's why there is the 9th offense to the holy name, to never preach the glories of the holy name or Krishna, who is no different from the holy name, to the faithless, materialistic people. But then it's a surprise how Srila Prabhupada tells us to go out and distribute books to everyone. And how do we expect so many people to be favorable recipients of Krishna consciousness? Well, that secret is revealed in Bhagavad Gita as well. One of the final verses of the chapter 7 says that those who yasham tvantagatam papam janana punya karmanam tadvandva moham nirmuktam bhajante mam dridavrata, those who completely purified of all their sins and dedicated themselves to, unlimited pious activities, become free from duality and illusions, and they engage themselves in devotional service with great determination. And of course, we know that devotees are very rare, which is confirmed in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Manushanam Sahasrishu Kashtidya Tati Siddhaya. And Srila Prabhupada was lecturing one time, and he said, devotees are very special people based on this verse because they are the most pious people, and that's why on the most pious people they become devotees. One disciple was listening, and then he asked Prabhupada, you are telling that only most pious people become devotees. So, I'm kind of a devotee also, but looking back at my life, I can't remember being pious. I was anything but pious. So that sounds very contradictory. So how did I become devotee if I was not pious? And Prabhupada said, I have created your piety. And it's not any kind of mysterious statement, because the piety Srila Prabhupada was talking about was devotional piety, Bhakti, Unmukha, Sukriti. And that devotional piety automatically develops through contact with Krishna consciousness. When people are exposed to chanting the holy name, reading or even touching Srila Prabhupada's books, seeing the devotees, giving donations, or being engaged one way or the other in devotional activities. And then their consciousness changes, and gradually they become more Krishna conscious. And as we know, Srila Prabhupada, in the very beginning, when he had no disciples, no followers, he had to distribute his books himself. And he went to one book fair, and he was thinking, well, this is a good place to distribute my books. And he decided to find a lady who was in charge of that book fair. And so he approached her and he said, I'm an author and these are my books, and would you please take these books and display them and sell them at the book fair? And that lady kind of looked, like, first of all, nobody knows this author. And second of all, these are like very religious and very heavily philosophical books. Who will buy them? Who will be interested in these books? So it might be a waste of time trying to sell these books at the fair. So she said, no, we cannot take these books. And Prabhupada said, it's fine. And he was sitting in her office. And he said, would you please give me a glass of water? And then, she reflects in her memories of her encounter with Srila Prabhupada. She said, normally, she's a big person, and she's not meant to serve anyone water or anything, right? So if somebody else would come with this request, she would tell, okay, the water dispenser is over there, help yourself with this water. But she said, well, because he was elderly person and, obviously scholarly person, she was thinking, okay, let me bring him water myself. So she went over and brought Srila Prabhupada a glass of water. And then Prabhupada drank the water and he said, would you please reconsider? Maybe you would be willing to take my books. And then she said, yes, okay, I'll take your books. So just imagine, she did little service to Srila Prabhupada and her consciousness changed. Like that. So this is what it means to create people's piety. And so when devotees are going out and distributing prasadam and of course books and holy names, they create piety in people, because people come in touch with Krishna in one form or the other, and they become purified. And so then from being completely unqualified, they become qualified. And the more they come in touch with devotees, the more they become purified, and the more that they become qualified, and then they become interested in reading these books and also practicing Krishna consciousness, like that. So this is the idea, that actually by helping people to come in touch with Krishna in different forms, we help them to amass spiritual piety, which gradually makes them into devotees. And with the exception of those of us who were maybe born in devotee families or come from devotional, background, this is what happened, right? That first, when we came across Srila Prabhupada's books, how many of us understood anything at all? Hardly, right? But by association with devotees and by doing little bit of services, our consciousness have changed, right? And now even our dresses have changed, right? Our lifestyles have changed, our habits have changed, everything changed. Sometimes it's unbelievable. You look at the mirror and you ask yourself, is that me? What happened to me? Anyone ever wondered how your life changed so drastically, right? But this is the power of bhakti sukriti, the power of devotion, which helps us to develop that, piety, which cleanses our consciousness to such a degree that we can not only understand but actually appreciate Krishna and everything connected to Krishna, and even develop very deep attachment to Krishna and even love for Krishna, like that. So that's the path of spiritual advancement. And of course we know how empty and meaningless our life would be without Krishna consciousness, right? And then we can reflect on the lives of those people bereft of Krishna consciousness and think, well, maybe we could also do something to help them to bring more meaning into their lives. And so this is the idea behind spreading Krishna consciousness, distributing this knowledge. And it's a lot of fun. If you have this experience, it's really unbelievable. You can see Krishna manifesting himself in many interesting ways. Would you like to hear some fun sankirtan story? It's getting cold in here in Michigan. The winter starts, claiming its rights. And I was telling the devotees that I come from Russia originally, hence the accent you could probably see. And the weather in Russia is pretty similar. I think the weather in Moscow is exactly the same as in here in Detroit at the moment. And it's also the same kind of transitional period. It snows one day, then it melts the other day, then, it gets cold and everything's covered with ice, right? It becomes very dangerous for driving. You have to become extra careful while driving. And even walking, right? You can slip on the ice. And so then the devotees were distributing books, and the road was covered with ice. And so a devotee stopped one lady, and he offered her a book, and it was Krishna book. And she looked at the cover of the book, and you know how devotees are sometimes presenting Krishna consciousness to the Western audience, yoga, karma, meditation. Everyone is taking one, giving a donation. That was my favorite line. So, you know, kind of presenting, not exactly telling that these are Krishna books, right? These are books about Krishna, but about yoga, karma, meditation, something everyone can relate to. And then he was telling something like that to this lady, but then he showed her Krishna book, and then, of course, right on the cover it's written Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she looked at the cover, and we don't know what happened. Maybe she was kind of fanatical Christian or something. She said, "Krishna! I'll never touch Krishna." And being kind of upset and frustrated, she turned around very rapidly, and she slipped on the ice. And she started falling. And this is like young, beautiful lady, and she is falling on the ground, and this devotee is brahmachari. I mean, he could kind of grab her and, you know, help her from falling down, but he's thinking, I'm brahmachari, I'm not supposed to touch ladies, especially young ladies, so what do I do? And had to think, you know, very quickly. And then he figured out, and he, you know, put the Krishna book forward into her hand, and she grabbed on the Krishna book, and she steadied herself with the Krishna book, and she didn't fall. And she was like, you know, panting. She was like really nervous because she was about to fall, and she looked very scared. And then she looked at this devotee, of course being very grateful that he helped her, and she said, "Thank you very much, you know, I was about to fall." And then devotee said, "It's not me who helped you, it was Krishna." And she was still grabbing onto Krishna book. And then devotee let the book go, and the book ended in her hands, and she looked at the book, and she said, "It's true, Krishna saved me." So I'll buy this book. So Krishna has amazing sense of humor, right? He knows how to change people's consciousness on the spot like that. And you can see these kind of things happening during book distribution. And of course I had my own experiences. Would you like to hear? That one time it was really cold. It was way below 0 Fahrenheit. Probably it was, I'm still adjusting to Fahrenheits, minus 25 Celsius, so it was maybe minus 10 Fahrenheit or something. So you know, in such a cold, you probably know that you cannot let your car stay outdoor with engine switched off for a long time, right? Because then you cannot start it again. So, and I was distributing books next to a shopping mall, and basically it was very easy because all the men, all the husbands, they were in their cars sitting with engine running, waiting for their wives to finish the shopping. And they were like really bored, sitting in their cars, having nothing to do. So it was, really easy to come to them and strike the conversation, show them the books. And many of them would buy the books like that. And so it was quite exciting for me going around this, parking. And then I have seen, suddenly I saw a car with engine stopped. Probably the man made a mistake that he went out with his whole family for shopping and he just left the car behind. And when they came back, they couldn't start it. And so basically, like such a cold weather, and he's out with his whole family, and the engine is open, and he's trying to do something to start it, right? Poking it with a screwdriver. And then, obviously they were in quite a stressful situation. So for good, I should be leaving them alone, right? Because probably buying Prabhupada's books was the last thing on their minds at that moment. But I don't know why. I've decided, let me still try them. And so I approached the man and I said, would you like these books? Would you like to buy these books? And he turned to me, he said, what books? Don't you see what's happening here? What are these books? And I said, well, these books are about God. And he said, if God would help me in this situation, I would buy these books. And I told him, God can do anything. And he said, don't talk nonsense. And then he stuck the screwdriver, without looking, stuck the screwdriver into the engine, and it started. And he was like, wow, what are these books? Let me see them. And he bought the whole set. So it's quite amazing how Krishna manifests himself. And so, that, normally the December is before the Christmas, right? The time before the Christmas, and probably you still remember your childhood when you were waiting for the miracle to happen, right? On Christmas Eve. So December is the month of miracles. And so devotees are actually, in a sense, transcendental Santa Clauses who bring the best gifts to the children of God, transcendental knowledge. And really it is a gift. That Prabhupada's books are really a gift, and whatever we ask from people to give a donation is very symbolic. It's just a token that these books, you cannot place value on those books. This is the most valuable thing in the entire universe, right? Because it is Krishna. And we just want people to give something, very insignificant. Just basically, I remember that, cartoon, I think it was, that, devotee distributes books on the street, and then the man is asking, so what do I do? And devotee says, well, you can give a donation. Normally people give that much. And the man says, well, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita for free to Arjuna. So why are you asking me for money? And devotee says, well, the knowledge is for free, but we just ask you to cover the shipping cost from India. So this knowledge was shipped to India, from India, so we just want you to cover the shipping costs. So basically this is what we ask people, right? Just to cover the bare costs. Otherwise this knowledge is for free. But plus, of course, if they give the donation, because it is utilized in Krishna consciousness, it helps people to develop their piety. And it helps them to come closer to actually understanding and appreciating Krishna. So, and plus, those who are distributing Prabhupada's books, and he was very direct about it, he said, those devotees are getting my very special blessings. And we understand how powerful Srila Prabhupada is just by seeing what he has done in the last 11 years of his life. So there is no doubt about Srila Prabhupada's position, because from material point of view, what he did was really impossible to do. And so, as Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Krishna Shakti Bina Nahi Tara Pravartan, right? Kali Kalera Nama Krishna, Kali Kalera Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtan, Krishna Shakti Bina Nahi Tara Pravartan. That the topmost dharma, the topmost spiritual practice in this age of Kali is Nama Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the holy name. And there is no possibility of introducing this dharma all over the world without being especially empowered by Krishna, Krishna Shakti. So we can see that Srila Prabhupada was really, empowered instrument in Krishna's hands to do what he did. And we can only, imagine how powerful his blessings are. And so, let me see the show of hands. How many of you are interested to get Srila Prabhupada's special blessings? Haribo! Of course, the best thing, if you personally come out on the streets and distribute books, and it's a lot of fun. Like normally we do regulated devotional service, right? Rise in the morning, chant Hare Krishna, read Prabhupada's books, cook for Krishna. It's very predictable, right? Our life is quite predictable in so many ways. And it's called sadhana bhakti, regulated practices of devotional service. But much higher than sadhana bhakti is raganuga bhakti. And raganuga means spontaneous devotional service, unpredictable. And you have to fully depend on Krishna. And it's a lot of fun, And you can practice Raganuga Bhakti even without being advanced sufficiently by Prabhupada's mercy. Just take Prabhupada's books out on the street and meet people, and you can never predict whom you will meet and what will happen. So it's going to be transcendental adventure. So you can, have a try of have a taste of transcendental adventure by going out. And of course, if you're a little scared, then you can go out, or not so much experienced, you can go out with someone who has good experience and learn from the expert. But then still try yourself approaching people and offering them the books. But if for one reason or the other you would not be able to do that, then even sponsoring the books, right? That's also helping in the mission. If you can't do it yourself, then you can donate something so that on your behalf these books would be distributed. One way or the other, if you take part in that activity, it's definitely very pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, especially on this special month. And it's actually quite inspiring to see book distribution is increasing in America manifold. And when I was requested to speak on this subject, I was thinking, because I come from Russia, and normally Russia would lead, in terms of scores in Prabhupada's book distribution, and America would be far behind. But in the past few years, America went ahead and left Russia behind. And I'm thinking, if I am encouraging devotees to do more book distribution, Russia will be left even more behind. So, and I come from Russia. So maybe you could give your scores to Russia because Russian devotee inspired you. Anyway, it's a joke. But it's good, transcendental competition, because this is what's happening in the spiritual world in Goloka Vrindavan. One gopi is doing some service to Krishna, and the other gopi sees that and she's thinking, wow, she's doing so nicely. But wait, I'll do something which is even more pleasing to Krishna. I'll do even better service, like that. And so they're engaged in this transcendental competition, trying to do better and better service. But Srila Prabhupada said there is no jealousy or envy in the spiritual world, because it's all pure and very pleasing to Krishna, and that's why the devotees are happy as well. And so yes, this is our opportunity to share spiritual knowledge and our happiness with as many people as possible and increase their transcendental piety. And please, Srila Prabhupada. And get his direct mercy. How many of you would like to get special mercy from Srila Prabhupada? Get in touch with him, get his special mercy. So we have a special surprise for you today. And it's personal belonging of Srila Prabhupada, his personal kurta he was wearing in early 70s. And he was explaining that whatever belongs to a devotee or Krishna is non-different from him. So normally these kind of relics are all in museum, right? But today is a special day, and if you like to come in touch with Srila Prabhupada and get his blessing, because Prabhupada's personal belongings, they are surcharged with his transcendental potency of Krishna consciousness, so you can get some of his spiritual power by coming in touch with his personal belonging, and use that power in his service, and you get much more in return. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada's Marathon ki jai, Srimad Bhagavat Gita ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.